Hello and welcome to another Board Crazy review. My name is D. This week we are, as you can see, reviewing Tiny Towns. I am joined by my permanent partners in crime.
Well, permanent's a strong word.
Anyway,
I thought it was literally...
What are your names?
I'm Graham.
And I am... Well, I said it last time, but it's my name, Tiny Will.
I was going to say Tiny Will, yeah.
So
before we get to our
actual... I have little toes. Little baby toes on full-grown man feet.
Disgusting. He can barely walk, actually.
I thought you were really self-conscious about that. You don't want anyone to know.
Well, everyone knows now.
Before we get to our actual review, we're going to run my introduction from our gameplay video for this game to give you a basic idea of how the game is played if you have not yet watched that. So if you don't want to watch that, there will be a time listed which you can skip to get right back to us. But here that goes. Tiny Towns is a game for 1 to 6 players designed by Peter McPherson and published by the Alderac Entertainment Group. In this game, each player is in control of a small plot of land and must carefully use the scant resources and space available to them to make the most harmonious and prosperous town. To set up, all of the resource cubes and buildings are set out to form a supply, and 1 card of each building type is drawn. These cards are then lined up next to the cottage card on the table, and these are the only cards that will be used for the entire game. Each player receives 1 4x4 player board, a monument token, and 2 monument cards, of which they choose 1 to keep while discarding the other. The game proceeds with all players in clockwise order, taking turns as the master builder. When a player is the master builder, they simply call out one of the game's 5 resources, and then all players must take 1 cube of that resource and place it onto an empty space on their board. Once a player has completed a building by aligning their cubes in a pattern as shown on one of the cards, they may remove those resources from their board and replace it with a building token in one of the now vacated spaces. These patterns can be flipped, mirrored, and rotated in any way possible, as long as the configuration stays the same. The monuments, which the players choose during setup, function the same as the other buildings in the game. However, they will come with unique abilities and effects that are specific to their player. Unlike the other buildings, however, these monuments may only be built once during the game. Once a player's land has no remaining empty spaces and they cannot or choose not to construct any new buildings, they are out of the game and may start calculating their score. All remaining players still take turns as the master builder until they too have completed their towns. When a town is completed, the player will remove any unused resource cubes from their board, and any empty space left will be worth -1 victory point at the end of the game. Each other type of building is scored individually based on the rules dictated on their card, and then the player who has accumulated the most victory points at the end of the game is, of course, the winner. Okay, so now hopefully everyone has an idea of how Tiny Towns plays. This is, I think, one of the simplest games we've played in a while. Even more so than, like, That's Pretty Clever, which is, pretty straightforward. This is really, really simple. Yeah. But despite that, this game provides I think, a legitimately fun and challenging puzzle to the players. It's one of these games where you at face value look at it like, oh, this doesn't seem like it'll be much of anything. This is like a nothing game, and then you play like, oh, hold on now. Yeah. This requires some thought, and it can get frustrating at times when things aren't going your way, but it's one of these games where you don't get frustrated with the game so much when that happens. You get frustrated with yourself for just not playing better.
Or other people.
Yeah, or even that. But yeah, it's not like the rule set.
I apologize again, guys. I'm sorry.
But yeah,
it feels so simple and lighthearted that even when it's not going your way and you're frustrated, it doesn't feel like one of those things where you're like, sometimes you get that attitude where you're like, I'm never playing this again. I never felt that. I was having a good time even when I was getting sabotaged.
I agree with what you said there. You first look at it and I'm almost like, how is this going to be enough?
4x4.
Yeah, this is going to be boring. Like, what am I going to do with this? But then I'm like, oh, wait, because there's the building and then the shrinking of the town. And it's almost like, breathing. It's just like you see it grow. You're like, oh my God, I got to start building, and it shrinks down. It's very fun.
It's definitely something I noticed. Like I love when a game does something that's like psychologically satisfying, and that very much is, because you feel like a bit of like a little bit claustrophobia as the board you get more and more cubes on the board, and you're like, oh god. And then the second you build something, you can clear them all away and put a building. It's like, oh yes.
The relief you feel
it's like
when you're like hoping someone calls that color that you need, because you're like, if they call
red,
yellow or red, if they call gray, I'm done. It's gonna ruin my entire board.
Yeah.
But then they call the blue, and you're like, oh,
I can complete my. And the feeling gets better as the game goes on, and your space runs out more and more, and each and every new building to place down is just even better.
To me, it's the way I described it in my head. It's or if I had to describe it to someone, I'd say it's like if you mix Tetris with bingo. And it's like bingo in that someone calls something out and you have to put it on your board, right?
Okay.
But then you're trying to build, buildings that have Tetris shapes. So it's that combination of like this mad dash to put something where it needs to go at the same time making sure that you're fitting the shapes in this 4x4 grid. I think that's I think that's a good way of describing it in my mind.
Right. I agree. When I first saw the shapes of the buildings that you had to put together, I'm like, oh, it's like Tetris. You're trying to fit a puzzle. But then you go to do it, and it's almost like nothing like Tetris in this in the sense that like how you put the shapes together, like, oh wait, just because the shape is like this doesn't mean that's what the building's going to end up looking like. It kind of plays with you sometimes.
You have to be careful for that too, because I kind of imagined in my mind that it would play like Tetris, and I still, every time I've played with that kind of strategy, and I'll do that thing where I'll build like 2 buildings here and then 1 building up here, leaving a space here, and I'm like, I'll slot it in.
Yeah.
I'll do that thing like you do in Tetris where it comes down, and you shift it real quick. It doesn't work that way.
No, that's not at all. It's not at all. They don't move like that.
No surprise, I did not do well.
I also, another thing with this, I feel like when you got a game where every player has their own board, there's a concern that it's going to be quiet, or you're not going to be involved with the other players. But I think there's a really good level of player interaction in this game.
It's not solitaire.
No, not at all, because it really pays off to have not only pay attention to your own board, but your opponents, and see what they're going for, probably going for at least, what they will probably be calling in the future, so that you yourself don't have to call that and can call something else for yourself, and then you can sort of string together cubes that you need based on, projecting what they do. And it's another thing that's really satisfying when you're like, okay, they're going to need blue. I'm not going to call blue. And then it gets to them and they do call blue. And you're like, perfect. That's exactly what I needed. And and you can also kind of mess with people the same way. You can say, oh, they really don't want that color, but I could use it. I'm going to call that. And just mess.
That's And I very much agree with that. And if you're playing this game and it's going to be key for you to not only kind of long-term plan your board, but pay very close attention to someone else's board, because you're going to need to adapt if something is getting called. Like I think that kind of happened in the game where I had a very nice monument card, and I had to keep calling red for it. De-adapted. We did very
More or
well.
less,
Will didn't adapt. He just tried to brute force his own buildings, and you just had to start putting reds in other places.
In my defense, I don't know if my board was as adaptable because of how I laid it out, and because of
your monument,
I don't know why that
monument
was huge, and it didn't have I think it had 1 red in it, and I needed to put like 5 or down. And I don't know. I could have done better to pivot.
If we're talking about strategy here, adapting may become a very okay, they're going to keep calling that. I need to start building something with that color and make it a part of my game board.
In general, I agree with you. And I have no problem with what you did in our game. I think what happened in our game was extremely unique to like the cards that were laid out and the card that you got. And that wouldn't happen every time because different monuments are given out and different cards are laid out. I just think it was a unique situation, but that's kind of an example of how sort of tight and elegant this gameplay is, in that it's because there's variations. Like no 2 games are going to be alike, and things might not go your way one time, but that it's a short game. Like we already said, you can go back and replay it in different. So things might go against you, and you might not be able to adapt. Or even if you do adapt, there's only so much you can do. But again, this is not a game that's offensive in any way. You're never going to walk away from it too angry. Well, I'm not going to say it. There are people that will, but that's one of the strengths of the game is you can always play it again.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the monuments here for a moment. They add a bit of asymmetry to the game, obviously, where each player has their own, and that's going to prevent everyone's board from kind of looking the same. I always appreciate when a game like this does add some asymmetry, to keep things from getting, stale, just a little bit of flavor. How do you guys feel about the monuments in general?
I really enjoy the monuments. I could see how someone may see them and say, they feel a little bit uneven. Like I know you guys probably felt my monument card was maybe overpowered.
Not necessarily. I feel like it was just a perfect storm where you had a monument that helped you, but also the other universal buildings were not cohesive with that because there was almost no red out there and you just needed red.
Which goes back to God. Which goes back to what Will was saying. It was a unique situation. I think the monument cards are a nice way to add some asymmetry in the game.
And I think there's a good balance. Some are easier to build than others, but generally speaking, the more difficult they are, the better they are. Look at this, the sky bats here.
Right.
You require 6 of your spaces. That's a whole lot, but you get 2 victory points for each building type your town is missing. So you can just focus on like a couple things, and you're gonna clean up at the end probably.
I don't think that I agree with Graham. There might be some imbalance with them. They're not necessarily all created equally.
No, of course there never will be.
They don't always lead to like a perfect balance in the gameplay. Not. But at the same time, though, again, with this kind of game being as light as it is, my opinion, I like them. They're maybe not as great as the building cards and the way they work together.
Sure, and I also like a little bit of mystery that they add to the game, where you're not sure exactly what your opponent's doing based on because it could be any combination.
If I understand correctly, you don't need to play with the monuments.
Probably no.
I don't know if there was a variation in the rules.
I think it said that it recommends the first time you played maybe not use them.
Oh, okay, maybe that's what. I thought it was, but because if you wanted a more Euro style feeling of the game, you could just take out the monuments, and I'm sure it would play just fine without the monuments.
Definitely. So anything else I wanted to add? I like the just having the options with each different type of building.
Great.
4 of them each. It's not a ton, but it's enough that each time you play the game, you're probably gonna have a different combination out there.
And I think it's cleverly designed that you have the building types that never change, but you get the different abilities from each one. I think that was very nicely designed.
Like this, like here, you have like 4 different kinds for just the farm structure: the farm, the granary, the greenhouse, and the orchard. But and I think as much as I love having different shapes to have to build, I also really like the special abilities on the bottom because a lot of them sort of piggyback off each other. So you have this puzzle on your board of just trying to fit in the buildings, but then all of a sudden you have these little special abilities where it's like, oh, if I build like an inn or something, and the more of them I have, if it's like 3, you get 3 victory points if it's not in a row or column with another inn. So now you got to think like, oh well, if I'm going to build another inn, I can't put it here, and all that adds even more strategy. And you could ignore that if you wanted to, but you wouldn't be optimizing your points if you did. And I just liked how that it just adds more to what's going on in your own little game on your board.
I think that's pretty much all I have to say about the gameplay. Do you guys have anything else with the gameplay specifically you want to add?
I do. I would say this, that as I really like the gameplay. I would say though that sometimes with bingo style games where
that genre.
Well, no, I mean like the mechanic of someone calling out something. It sometimes felt to me like I didn't have as much agency over my own board as I would like.
Well, I think one thing that I would add to what you're about to say here is that the theme is extremely tacked on. It's almost pointless. It's just there to have some pretty art, and the art is quite pretty. But as far as like you're building a town for yourself, it's not. Not really. It makes no sense that everyone would have the same resources every time. And But anyway, you can continue.
And I think this is maybe again, this is my personal opinion, but I think it's something that people who are going to play this game should be aware of. Is that because other people are calling out the resources. Only on your turn are you going to necessarily get exactly the one you want. Now there are chances that other times it might happen, but there's. Often you don't, I would say more often than not, you don't get exactly the one you want. And I would say that I know this game plays up to 6 people, and I can only imagine that once you get over 3 or 4, like imagine playing with 5 or 6, and you have situations with that many different minds and strategies going on, it might get a little chaotic and frustrating, so it's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, I would agree.
And one last thing, before we move on to anything else.
Feel free.
I also feel like the game moves very fast, and maybe sometimes just a little too fast for my liking, given that
your liking.
Not everyone has the same mind when it comes to puzzles. I like to take my time with puzzles. Sure. And this is not a game where you can take your time. And it almost sometimes felt like Tetris to me, and I hate Tetris, by the way, is that there always felt like there's a moment where sort of metaphorically, your piece is getting close to the bottom, and it's like you have to make a call. And I don't know. That,
you see the other piece like floating down, you're like, oh no.
Well, I can see that you two have placed, and like I'd hover it above the spot, being like, should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I? Yeah. Probably more often than not, I got it wrong, but still. So that is something to consider too, is that like, maybe discuss ahead of time with the other players in your group how much time you want to spend between turns.
This is 100% an abstract game. Just do not get that wrong. This is a game where you have to figure out a puzzle more or less.
Yep, definitely.
So that's it for me for gameplay.
Okay. I just want to quick talk about the other stuff, the components and whatnot. Really attractive game, I think. I like the art and the cards a lot. It's really nice. Like I said, the theme is basically nonsense, but the art is very charming, I think. I especially like the chipmunk monks. I think that was cute. And also, good lord, there are a lot of components for a tiny game.
Yes, sir.
But they are all wooden. They are all molded for the most part in their own unique shapes, and I really like them. It's an extra mile. They probably didn't have to go that way with having the wood and all that, but it really looks nice.
Graham, do you mold wood?
I don't.
Well,
think
not
you would
whatever, molded,
wood, but
carved.
Dee's mind works differently.
You can mold wood if you melt it.
I really like the components too, and I pretty much agree with everything you said. One thing I do want to point out that I really love is, can I find it in here?
What, the silica pack? Is it the hammer?
The hammer.
The silica pack? Yeah, that's awesome.
The silica pack, no, is the hammer. The first player token.
Good.
This is one of the coolest first player tokens we've had in a game. I love this. It's just
very hard to prevent yourself from hitting things with it. But
it's overly done for this game because obviously you don't need it, but it is so cool.
And just the process of constantly passing it around is kind of ridiculous.
I almost wish there was a power that came with this. Like if you could, like when you have that, you get to call your,
you also get to call the shots.
You get the shot, but it's something more special. I don't know. Like I can knock one of your tokens off.
That'd be too much.
But
now it's getting
a dexterity game.
Now it's too Ameritrashy.
Yeah. And I like that they gave us the
and the score sheets are really always appreciated. And the game does support a single player mode, which has its own components. So some cards in there. It's pretty straightforward. You basically just draw those, and you sort of play by yourself, and you figure out which one you're going to use each round, and you score yourself at the end.
Wheat.
Yes. Yeah, and honestly, this is a game that not only do I see us probably going back to more often than others. Also, this is the sort of game where I would even buy an expansion for it. Would one come out of like new building cards or anything like that?
Maybe a board with some obstacles on it or something like that.
Or make an Excel version.
In Excel, the program.
It looks like an Excel tab. Could do it. I mean,
it'd be weird. This is an easy game to recommend. Especially for anyone who's a fan of an abstract game. I love a good abstract game. This is a very good abstract game, I think. I will give it a score of, I'm going to go with 4.5 stars out of 5.
Yeah, I really enjoy these kind of games. I'm with D on that one. Some of my favorite games are the abstract games that we play. This is one of the better ones. What's he doing?
Cleaning up.
Just interrupts my... Anyway.
I'm not interested in your score.
I know, it's rude. He does this all the time. Stop! Stop it!
I'm taking this. I'm taking this.
Oh, damn it. All right, well, what's the score, Graham? How many thumbs?
I'm going to give it 2 thumbs up.
All right.
I love simple games. Guys, I don't like playing...
Simple people. Love simple games.
The heavier games sometimes bother me just because I feel like there's too much going on. Yeah. This is not one of those.
No, it's not.
So, but I'm going to give it a B+ though, because I don't think I think there's not enough
the A range.
There is. I think there's like a middle ground for me that I like where, and I just don't know if there's enough there for me yet. Okay. And with expansions, it could get there. Yeah,
I appreciate your score, Will.
I just want to play it right now.
I kind of do, but we should probably end the video first.
Okay, great. We're still recording?
Yeah, we are.
I forgot about that.
Thank you for watching this review of Tiny Towns. If you enjoyed it, you can, of course, like, comment, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell so you can see every time one of our videos is posted instantly. You can get notifications sent to your phone like I do every time. I'm like, it's always bored crazy. We should stop. And we do have a video coming up this coming Friday. We're getting back into the monastery game sort of setting,
Oh.
We used to brew beer. Now we're doing something a bit more high-minded, I think. So
I'm intrigued.
Check that out in a couple days. Until then, though, thank you for watching. I'm D.
I'm
Graham and Tiny Will.
Oh, you didn't even get to...
Why'd you guys tell them about my toe?
You brought it up.
I totally didn't.
All right. Until then, thanks for watching, everybody.
Bye.
Goodbye.